Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundless success to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And things are moving ahead from the election. We will be revisiting some areas of discussion, as well as obviously having some new territory, but I think we still have to address the biggest losers. And I think it's profound. I think the Democratic Party's one, NASA could be one, but you have the power players of the Democratic Party, Pelosi, Oprah, although she's not an official member of the Democratic Party, and Obama, which I find the most.
Yeah,
they might go internationally with Trudeau, but let's have your chime in on this, your opinion.
Yeah, the Democrats are proving to be the biggest loser because they are failing to learn lessons from the election. They keep saying, well, we didn't get our message across well. It's like, no, the lesson you need to learn is not that you didn't communicate well. Your policies were soundly rejected. If they're going to keep doubling down on these rejected policies, they're going to be in for years in the basement.
I would agree with that 100%. My verdict, and things can obviously change. I think they're headed to that because I think they're going to double down on their progressive agenda because they have nothing else, and I think it's called like suicide. But I'd like the other people, prominent people. Pelosi, she's finished. She tried to. She's never was. Everyone's she's a esteemed politician. She's never been the smartest bulb or the brightest bulb in the Christmas tree. You have Oprah. I think she's been completely disgraced, and I think Obama, once right there with Jesus Christ himself, that train has left the station. Do you agree with me, Dr. Lopkin? Especially Obama. That's twice that he failed to launch.
Yeah, Obama's legacy is done.
Is the first.
Yeah, Obama's legacy is done. I don't even know if it was a matter of this election, though, because quite frankly, the effects of the Biden administration, regardless of who won this election, just decimated Obama's legacy. Because Biden was doubling down on everything Obama was pushing, and it failed miserably. I think the election just put the icing on the cake.
I would agree with that. Yes, I also think you can go a step further. I think Obama, basically his operatives are running the show anyway, because obviously Uncle Joe is incapable of that. But I also think it's the coolness factor. He was the man with the pots and pans, slick as you could ever get. He could sell ice to an Eskimo, as the old adage says. But he lost the curveball. He lost the fastball, I should say. Talking down to he's irrelevant. He's living in Martha's Vineyard. He's just not there.
Yeah, he has no relevance anymore. As far as the coolness factor, I think that's more of a problem because he did not go away. Let's face it, everybody loses coolness as they get older. Had Obama faded into the background after leaving the White House and just let the Democrats go and let the Democrats... I think history would have kept that cool factor for him. Like James Dean.
100%.
James
You
Dean
can
is
do. You can
still
use the example of like the Beatles or the Doors. They quit, when they're in their 20s essentially, and they're still cool even with the young people. The Eagles won't.
exactly.
Hell Freezes Over tour, 20th edition. It's just not happening.
Exactly. At one point, the two coolest movie stars were James Dean and Marlon Brando. James Dean is still considered cool. Why? He passed away. We never heard from him again, and so he kept that cool factor. Marlon Brando got old, he got overweight, he lost that cool factor. That's what Obama had. And Obama did not go away after his administration. Had he done that, I think he would have kept his cool factor. Ironically, George W. Bush, who never had a cool factor, now in retrospect is gaining a cool factor because of the things he's done quietly since leaving office. His work with the veterans, his tributes to the handicapped that he works with. All of a sudden, he's suddenly getting more credibility, but he's doing it smart. He's staying quiet and not coming back into the spotlight.
Yes, I agree with everything you've just said, but I also wanted to put one more layer on the cake. I think, just like Hillary, Obama's pissed. His whole life was his legacy. Um, One achieved some success, the other essentially did not, but they're in the same boat. Like, it's not just he's going to walk away, like Romney or something. No, he's pissed because he was obsessed with his legacy. He has zero legacy, and he's not influential anymore.
No, he's not. And if you remember the 2016 campaign, when he was on the campaign trail for Hillary, he wasn't campaigning for Hillary. At no time did he say, you have to vote for Hillary because she's the best candidate. It was always, we need you to vote for Hillary to protect my legacy. And that was what he campaigned on for Hillary. And when she lost, his legacy took a big dump, basically.
And this
Now
is
he
this. Yeah, go ahead.
now he was looking at this as, oh, this is how I can resurrect my legacy.
No doubt.
And once again the American people went, no, what you did was lousy. We don't want it back. Your legacy is a failure.
Yeah, and it's also, though, yes, I agree with that, but it's also being out of touch when you're living in Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
You lose touch with, let's just say, your bros, as he put it. Okay, and it came off. It really, I think, it hurt. I think actually the whole celebrity obviously hurt Kamala's chances, but I think him and Clinton, that is Bill Clinton, I think absolutely hurt her. Was it definitive or deadly? No, but it didn't help. Talking down to people like their children. How pandering or pathetic is that?
Yeah, the basic problem, and we've talked about this ad infinitum, is that the Democratic Party does not have a bench. There were no new people coming out saying, yes, Harris is our person. This is who the only people doing that were the squad, and they have no credibility to begin with. So the Democrats went, all right, well, since we don't have a bench of intelligent young people that we can bring out, we've got to go back to our history and bring back Bill Clinton and bring back Barack Obama. And the problem with this is it's like watching old timers day at the baseball stadium.
100%.
It's
Yep.
great. It's great seeing them again taking the field, but you don't expect them to be playing at their prime. In this case, the Democratic Party expected them to be playing at their prime, and the American people went, are you kidding me?
100% agree. I think we also have to include in Biggest Losers, Morning Joe making the pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago like they were a big diplomatic initiative. And also, overall, MSNBC and CNBC, especially MSNBC, plummeting ratings. So is Morning Joe, by the way. And Comcast, basically, this came out today that it's official.
Yep.
They're going to spin them off.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
Comcast came out with their spin-off plan with the exception of Bravo. Why they're keeping that, I don't know. But with the exception of Bravo, they are spinning off all of the NBC cable stations. So this is MSNBC, CNBC, USA, the Golf Channel. All of these things are now being spun off into its own company. They want to sell them. They don't want to be dragged down by this anymore. And MSNBC has been an abject disaster. I'm actually going to disagree with you about Morning Joe. I mean, yes, his show has been an abject failure over the last several years. But him going to Mar-a-Lago is what journalists are supposed to do. You're supposed to be talking to both sides.
Are you
You're
supposed to meet with Hitler?
well, no,
I
the
mean, it's
problem.
not like there's disagreements, like you're going to make a pilgrimage to talk to Gerald Ford, someone you might not be in lockstep, ideologically, but Hitler, fascist, who knows what.
Well, again,
Little weird.
the failure there was not him going to talk to Trump. It was characterizing him as Hitler. Journalists are not supposed to do that. Journalists are supposed to keep the door open for anybody that wants to talk to them. They do the interview and then they say, okay, well, this is a credible interview. Let's air this. But of course, nobody on MSNBC was capable of doing that anymore. Morning Joe at least saw the writing on the wall and went, wait a minute, I've actually got to get back to talking to the other side or I'm completely irrelevant. Where
I
the
agree.
rest the rest of MSNBC and certainly the idiots on The View, Whoopi doesn't even want to say Trump's name. Guess what?
She doesn't
You
want to have
are not
sex either.
yeah, well, nobody wants to have sex with her anyway. But guess
There you
what?
go.
If you're ignoring the president of the United States as a media personality, whether you're a pundit, a journalist, whatever you want to call yourself, if you are ignoring the president of the United States, you are the one that's irrelevant, not the president. We criticized Joe Biden up and down. We criticized Kamala Harris up and down. If either one of them came to us and said, we'd like to grant you an interview, we'd have them on the air.
That is correct. And we have also criticized Trump. We've criticized
Yes.
others, but it's even bigger than that. I'd have to say, Dr. Lopkin, because it's called self-awareness. Okay, if you're screwing up at work, if you're screwing up you got to look introspectively. You got to look at the mirror. You listen to CNN, you listen to MSNBC. It's business as usual.
Yeah, they have
I
not
mean,
learned.
it's unbelievable.
They have not learned their lesson. And that's actually why they're being spun off. Comcast can't find a buyer for them in its current state. And it's also why the new company is MSNBC and it's being bundled with the other cable networks. Because if you try to sell just MSNBC, there are no buyers.
Zero. Good point. Very good point. Also, we talk about the financial aspect of things. Again, just to revisit the Harris campaign very, very, very briefly, is I find it. I think everyone knows we dodged a bullet. It's been out. How do you spend 1.2 billion, end up 20 million in the red? It boggles the mind. Spending like crazy amounts of money. I can't even believe it on the Nevada, I'll call it the Visual Dome, whatever it's called. I mean, just unbelievable, reckless spending. DoorDash. I mean, talk
I mean,
about being incompetent.
to be fair, This is the same thing the Democrats did with the American Rescue Plan and the so called Inflation Reduction Act. It
There you
was
go.
pouring money into the economy that was not necessary to pour in, reckless spending. So much of it is allocated and still outstanding. So if the Republican Congress doesn't pull back that spending, we could still be in for economic disasters because of those bills.
You have a very good point because I think it's a knee jerk. It's become over the last 30 years, not 1 year or whatever, that the Democrats have their knee jerk is spend and it will be fixed.
Yes, and
Uh, and I think it's been going. And
I,
I know both parties do it, but the Biden administration was that on steroids. It was
it,
unbelievable.
yeah, the amount of spending was just ridiculous. And, during the Trump administration, if our long term listeners will remember, I went off on the Trump budget. This was when the Democrats controlled Congress and Trump went along with this budget that was far too big, had far too much useless spending in it. So, yes, both parties are guilty of this. But the Democrats seem to go there automatically. I had an argument with a local Democratic official here in Connecticut. We have an education problem in the state of Connecticut. Uh, UConn is a state college that is so badly run that they keep going back to the state government for bailouts. And I got into an argument with one of our Democratic representatives because they were pushing the fact that yes, education is important, so we have to bail them out and we have to give them more money. And I kept telling them, no, what you need to do is put in oversight of how they're spending their money. They have tons of money, but they're wasting it. That's one of the reasons that I am thrilled about Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk going over everything the government is doing, going, wow, we are wasting this. We can get rid of this whole agency.
Well, okay, that was on the agenda, so let's go to it. I think it's exciting. Is it going to fizzle out? I don't know if it will because you have two strong people that are independent, not part of the swamp. So I'd like your opinion. So, what are our listeners? What do you think the end game is going to be
It's
with the Department of Efficiency? I believe they call it.
it's not going to fizzle out. If it fails, and there is a strong possibility that it will, it is going to be a blow up because we've already heard Democrats are going to try to fight this. Now, fortunately, they don't have the votes in either the House or the Senate to really fight this. And a lot of what needs to be cut can actually be cut through executive orders. So there's that positivity. On the negative side, we've already heard from the union that represents government workers that they're going to try to keep every person employed, whether they do their job or not, whether they're useless or not. So this is going to go into the courts, I think, because they're going to say, okay, we don't need all these people. You're fired. The union is going to take the administration to court. I think that's one of the reasons why Trump wanted Matt Gaetz as attorney general, because realistically, all he is a pit bull.
True. I also think that it bolsters the MAGA movement and further diminishes the Democratic Party because how do you defend? Oh, we don't want to. What do you mean you don't want to cut? You out of your mind? Every company cuts. Every regional district cuts. Okay. I don't see how you. I don't see how you project that argument.
No, it's going to be really tough come the midterms for the Democrats to defend not cutting the government's budget, especially when it's waste that's being cut. Nobody's only the Democrats are saying, oh, they're going to cut your Medicare benefits. It's like, no, nobody has talked about that in terms of government efficiency. And, you know, in the excuse me, um, to make everything crystal clear, Biden cut Medicare benefits twice in his 4 years. So the fact that they're suddenly all up in arms about the possibility that Medicare is going to be cut is bullshit. The fact of the matter is, they can cut the budget. They've already said this. We mentioned this last week. All they need to do is require everybody to return to the office. That right there will cut their costs.
Wait a second, though. Look at the optics of that. Let's say the Department of Efficiency stipulates that. Democrats go against it. You think the average person in, Springfield, Massachusetts is going to say, oh, yeah, I stand with the Democrats? They're going to say, what the hell are you doing? It's a no-win for the Democrats. It was chess versus checkers. How do you like that?
The average person is going to be, this is ridiculous. Where it's really going to cripple the Democrats are the unions, because machinists have to be in 5 days a week. Longshoremen have to be in 5 days a week. So what the Democrats are telling these union members is, well, we're better than you. We don't need to be there.
Great point. Very good point, Dr. Lopkin. That's why you're the doctor. I think it further alienates the rank and file of traditional Democratic constituencies and the real world. There you go. What do you think of, so we have that. We talk about efficiency. This launched the SpaceX. I'm not so sure NASA is not part of maybe going to the scrap heap. I mean, the only thing I see of them is the same mission over and over. Mars. Very unexciting. There used to be the it girls, so to speak. I think they're the big yawn and very inefficient, by the way. Do you know that to replicate the spaces, and by the way, if they're in charge, we'll never go to the moon in our lifetime. I hate to break it to you. So the space suits probably cost $100,000 back in 1969. Okay, yeah, might that be like close to $1 million in today's currency? $1 billion for the spacesuit. $1 billion.
Yeah,
how does that happen? Explain to me,
I
genius.
think NASA is going to be
goodbye.
No, I don't think they're going away. They're going to be streamlined.
Hold on. Let me interject one thing. They will be more of a consulting agency. Their power is going to be greatly diminished.
Well, they don't have any power to begin. They don't have any power to begin with. I don't think they're going to be a consulting agency. I think they are still going to be saying, these are our goals, but how they get there is going to be radically changed.
I don't. You are correct.
I don't think NASA is the big loser there. I think Boeing is the big loser there. I think Lockheed Martin is the big loser there, because SpaceX has already shown they can do these things better than both of those companies that have been so ingrained in defense spending. Let's face it. I mean, Boeing, aside from the airliner problems that they've been having, defense spending is what's been keeping them going. The same thing with Lockheed Martin. They're completely dependent on defense spending. But when you have SpaceX coming in and going, look, we can do the same thing cheaper, faster, more efficiently, that's what's going to happen. I think the major defense
Wait, just to be clear, because hold on. I think just to be clear, you have a great point. You're saying it's going to transcend space exploration, but find its way into defense contracting and development. Yes. I mean military.
Yes, you're going to see the traditional procurement cycle for the military, for space, it's going to be upended. You're going to see smaller companies like like SpaceX, like smaller manufacturers who can do these things better than the big guys because they can move and be more agile. I think you're going to see a whole new generation of defense contractors come out of this that are using AI, that are using agile technology, that are moving faster than the dinosaur companies of yesteryear.
Great point, Dr. Lopkin. That will be something that will be monumental and will play itself out. Very good point. And you talk about the political landscape. Isn't it interesting that when I was a kid, that the cool people, Saturday Night Live, the hipsters, everything was the Democrats. The Republicans were the country club. Thurston Howell, from Gilligan's Island. Isn't it completely turned on its head? You see people doing young girls, young people, men, women, cool kids, I should say, doing the Trump dance. NFL, even much to their chagrin, what happens when someone scores a touchdown? They all get together and do the Trump dance. Isn't that kind of talk about being pissed off? Don't you think it pisses off the Democratic Party that they're now the man? They're the uncool. Your thoughts?
I don't know if it pisses them off because I'm not 100% sure they actually realize it's happening. I mean, they're so out of touch. I mean, going back decades and decades, yes, the Democrats were the cool kids, and I remember now I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he was the producer of Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And he actually said his biggest regret was having Richard Nixon on the show because they made him cool by having him on the show.
Yeah, true. Huge thing, yes.
Now it's completely the opposite. The NFL just came out and said, no, if our players want to do the Trump dance, let them do the Trump dance. That's fine. You've got people all over the world now doing this Trump dance. I actually took a look at Giphy. And if there's anybody that isn't familiar with it, just a website of animated GIFs that you can post online. And they have an entire library of animated Trumps doing the Trump dance. It has gone everywhere. It is the definition of viral at this point. And yeah, the Democrats are beside themselves. But again, they don't seem to realize how out of touch they are. It's why
I would agree with that 100%. They think it's no. Their big thing is it's not their policies; it's the messaging. That is the quintessential definition of being out of touch and lack any type of introspection.
Yeah, you have to take a look at what actually happened during this election. You had states that hadn't gone red in a presidential election since 1984 go red. You had counties that even if they didn't go red, they shifted in that direction. California and New York had more Republican votes than they have in 30 years. Even
wait a second. Also, New Jersey only a 6-point differential. That's like shocking.
New Jersey, there is a very strong possibility that they could flip red now rather than being a swing state. You've got the possibility of the Republicans actually running the board during the midterms, assuming that the Trump administration can deliver on its promises. Again, I never underestimate the Republicans' ability to shoot themselves in the foot. But if they actually live up to what they promised, they could actually turn the tide. You had more African Americans vote Republican than ever before. More Hispanics voted Republican than ever before. More Jews voted Republican than
Not
ever
enough.
before. Not enough, but the fact of the matter is, these were reliably Democratic constituencies. And now they're not that reliable for the Democrats anymore because the Democrats took them for granted and did not help their communities.
No question about it. They also gave the wrong message, and they also were basically condescendingly racist. How do you like that? Because they didn't understand that black people, Hispanic people are people. They care about paychecks. They care about all the things that everyone else cares about. They don't care about, or they don't appreciate women in men's and vice versa. So that blew up in their face. Speaking of blowing up in your face, how about Uncle Joe's performance at the G20? Absolutely stunning, stunningly
I,
bad.
I
Pushed to the back of the row, getting lost in the Amazon. It was out of control.
It was an embarrassment, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know that anybody expected any better from him. Look at what he's done over the past several years. The Italian prime minister having to bring him back into the group, his stumbles, his falls. This is what we've come to expect from Joe.
Yeah, but you talk about the whole political landscape. I find it treasonous, and I'm not saying that lightly, that the Democratic Party let this happen. This guy and some of the decisions he's actually been making lately, Ukraine ramping that situation up, with only 2 months to go. I'm sure he's not the one calling the shots, but just unbelievably inept, incompetent, and the Democratic Party was more than willing, and if he didn't F up that debate, more than willing to drag Uncle Joe over the finish line, eventually to be replaced by Mamala.
Yeah, I think they would have had to use the 26th Amendment to remove him if he had been reelected. There's no way he could have done another 4 years if in fact he even lives that long. Not that I want anything bad to happen to him, but his health is not what it should be. I'm going to push back a little bit on his decision with the Ukraine. It was the right decision, but it was the wrong time. That decision should have come 3 years ago. When you know that Russia is attacking Ukraine and you've already agreed to sell them arms, you don't then tie their hands behind their back and say, well, we'll give you the weapons, but you can't use them in certain ways. It's the same bullshit they pulled with Israel. You're either on the side of your ally or you're not.
Well, the other thing I would say is that you're dealing, and the Democrats especially don't understand this because they don't understand a lot. Is yeah, Russia, it's a shadow of what it used to be, but it has more nuclear weapons than any country on earth. And and what I strongly disagree, not disagree, what I strongly do not agree with is sending them arms with no end game. Sounds like Vietnam to me. No plan, no peace initiatives. You're dealing with a very dangerous situation with people that are completely inept.
Yes, I will agree with you. There needs to be an end game. There needs to be a plan. The problem is, without talks with Russia, you can't force Ukraine into an end game because it's not, they can't stop fighting until Russia stops. They're not the aggressor. I think what needs to happen, and quite frankly, I think Trump is probably already working on this. Within Russia, there is a huge movement to stop the Ukraine war. Unfortunately, these are not the people in power. These are the rank and file soldiers. These are the biggest constituency here are the mothers of the soldiers that have died who are stepping up and saying, no, we have to stop this. This is why Russia now sent North Korean soldiers into the Ukraine because they don't have enough soldiers to keep this up. I think we need to be reaching out, and this is why this actually came up back in 2016 when people were saying, well, how dare Trump actually talk to these foreign leaders? And there was a big deal. Wait a minute, he's got back channels into these countries. Yes, as a leader, you're supposed to have these back channels. You're supposed to be in contact with these folks. You're supposed to be talking with them because ideally this should never have happened in the first place. The whole
100%
reason it
agree. I know,
happened is because
100% agree
Biden
that
was
it never
out
should
of
have
it.
happened. But Putin would. He's looking for a way to get out of this. Okay, and we're not showing him anyway. We're just doubling down on nonsensical. Uh, no throwing arms, giving him Ukraine arms with no end game. It's highly dangerous, and it's not in our best interest. Yes, should we have stopped? And it never would have happened if Biden wasn't in charge to begin with, because he's
And
an
no,
abject moron.
if we had had a strong leader, the Ukraine war would never have happened. October 7th would never have happened. The whole reason these things happened is because other countries looked at our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan and went, oh, we can do whatever we want. They're not going to stop us.
There's no question about that, but also dovetailing back to the G20, I would agree it's Biden as usual, but it was also a slap in the face to America and a complete disrespect for an incapable leader when you put him back at the line. That was pathetic, and you had the leader of China at front and center. That speaks volumes.
It does speak volumes. I honestly believe it's not so much a slap in the face to America as a slap in the face to Biden. I
I would
think
agree with that.
most of these leaders have already started reaching out to Trump. They're anxious to deal with Trump. World leaders actually like dealing with people who are in a position of strength. Yes, they loved walking all over Joe Biden, but they also didn't feel that they could rely on America for anything. Now they know, oh, wait a minute. We're America's allies. If we push our case and we actually make a case, that's good for both us and America, they're going to have our backs. We may have
I
to.
agree with that, and I also think yes, I agree with you 100%. I also think in some ways it was not, you are correct, a slap in the face of America. It was a slap in the face of Biden. Almost you could flip it around, basically doing, I should say, not being negative about America, basically almost kind of sticking up for America and say, this guy's pathetic, screw him.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at the elections and going, okay, the American people spoke. They realize how bad they've been over the past 4 years. They're fixing the problem. Great. Let's get on board. And you're
That's
seeing,
100%
again,
correct.
the European Union has already said, yes, we're going to buy natural gas from America. This way we don't have to buy from Russia. And that's another reason that I think it was a good idea to unleash Ukraine, because as soon as Trump gets in, the sanctions against Iran are going to be ramped up. Never mind just enforced. They're going back to zero tolerance. Well, Russia is relying on Iran. He's going to unleash American energy. So that's going to hit Russia in their pocketbook. So you've gotten rid of one of three of Russia's major allies, hit them in the pocketbooks. You're forcing Putin to finally come to the peace table and say, look, okay, you know what? This did not work out for us. Putin has got to realize that. His own people know this. I don't honestly believe that the Russian government, now I'm not talking about Putin himself, I'm talking about his supporters, the people in other, when push comes to shove, Putin may be suicidal. I don't think the rest of the government is. I think if Putin goes too far and actually endangers the Russian people with a nuclear war, I think suddenly Putin is going to be assassinated.
Well, let's just hope so. I just to close that chapter. I think you have incompetent people playing with fire, and as you can see, it really does piss me off that you have the Democrats, the party of war, that basically would destroy a military with wokeism and every God knows what else, green energy initiatives, that they would weaken our military to the point that we couldn't invade Rhode Island. It has brass, you know what, with Putin. I find that unbelievably ridiculous. That's all I can say on that matter. Speaking of ridiculous, FEMA, again, I guess you could call it woke. I don't know what you can call it, but they had the head of FEMA basically again a word salad DEI hire, talking about the emails or texts that came out that don't help anyone. Trump sign.
Yeah, this I don't think it's got anything to do with incompetence or word salad. I think this is a perfect example of how the Democrats have weaponized government agencies against their political opponents. The same way they did it with the Justice Department, the same way they're doing it with FEMA now. And whistleblowers are coming out. They're going, no, this was policy. We were told point blank, do not go to anyone with a Trump sign. And the rationale they used is, well, we have to protect our workers, and Trump supporters are violent. Well, guess what? Trump supporters aren't violent. Trump supporters are not the white supremacists that they made everybody out to be. Yes, you have a small group of idiots that did very stupid things on January 6th, but that is not the bulk of Trump supporters. Those are not the people that put up Trump signs. And this is why the Democrats lost, because they were playing identity politics, and Trump supporters know that when they're calling Trump supporters garbage, deplorables, white supremacists, they all go look at in themselves and say, well, wait a minute, that's not me. Who are they talking? They're just making this up.
Yes, I agree with all of that, and I think it is delivered. But if you saw this woman being questioned in front of, I believe it was Congress, it was Congress. Yeah, again, she didn't get there because she was a Phi Beta Kappa.
Well, no,
Then we move.
they've been criticizing Trump's cabinet picks right and left. Oh, this person's not qualified. This person's not qualified. We've had the least qualified cabinet for the last 4 years. I mean, take a look at these people.
Please don't. Yeah, you had the clown. I don't know what it was. The clown, the bald clown who stole luggage at an airport.
Yes,
Yeah, head of, and then they say RFK is not qualified. Well, you have a transgender, overweight transgender whack job. It's just you just can't make this up. Yeah, the sooner it goes, the better. And I agree with you, Dr. Eric E. Lopkin, that the most incompetent, woke, talk about woke, go broke, just a bunch of morons. Speaking of morons, we have the gift that keeps on giving. Bernie, the ultimate self-hating Jew, trying to could put the kibosh along with Elizabeth Warren, or I should say Pocahontas, trying to stop arms shipments to Israel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fortunately,
and hopefully his ship. Hopefully he's done. Please.
Yeah, fortunately, even among the Democrats, he's in the minority on this, so he's got no power to do it whatsoever. Neither does Warren. The only way the Democrats are going to survive this is to reinvent themselves, and they need to move. Yeah, they need to move back to the center, the same way Bill Clinton did. Everything they need to do. The playbook was written by Bill Clinton. All they need to do is follow it.
I agree, but I think, how do you like this? Only you can answer this question. I'm going to throw it out there. I believe um, the real cause, the root cause. How do you like that? One of the major root cause of the Democratic Party's rot is, in fact, Bernie Sanders. They kowtowed to this idiot that even the New York Times said this guy he just says the same shit over and over. The top 20, shut up. I think he is at the one of the root cause. I would put him at number one. There's many players, but he was the orchestrator of the squad and all the other shit that the Democratic Party now unfortunately stands for.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bernie Sanders is at the core of the problem. He's not the most vocal member of the problem squad, um, but the fact that the Democrats kowtowed to the left instead of
And him
bringing
in
them
particular,
into
too.
him, AOC, the other squad
But
members.
he was the first.
He was
He
the
was the
first.
first of the
I
first.
don't know.
Yes, he was.
Was he
Yes, he
first
was.
or was Elizabeth Warren first?
No, he was the mentor of that piece of shit.
Okay.
Yes. How do you
Because
like? There's no. I love the guy. You know that. I
yeah,
love both of them. But I do
because
love.
she's another
Go
one,
ahead.
and I think as big a problem as the squad has become, if the Democrats had taken Bernie Sanders and taken Elizabeth Warren and said, "Look, what you are proposing is disastrous. Your policies are exactly the reason we had to create super delegates back in the 70s. So either sit down and shut up, or we will remove you from every committee and absolutely take away your power." This is what the Democrats needed to do. They knew they needed to do this because, again, this is why they put the super delegates in place in the first place back in the 70s, so that somebody like Bernie Sanders could not win a presidential nomination. And yet, despite taking that precaution, they threw it to the wind and went, "Oh, well, they did rig the primary against Bernie for Hillary, but they looked at Warren, they looked at the squad and went, oh, they're women and minorities. We can't do this to them."
Well, I think they needed, beyond the super delegates, a sister soldiers moment that
Yes.
says, Bernie, Liz, AOC, you've effed us up. Get the hell, and I agree with you 100%. No committees, no nothing. You're a cancer. Go play in the playground yourself and get the hell out of this party. That's
And
what they need a moment. And the leader that does that is the leader that will rise, like cream, will rise to the top, Dr.
yes, and
Lopkin.
what most people don't seem to realize is that Bernie is only a Democrat in election years. Other than the presidential elections, he's an independent. He's not a Democrat. AOC does not identify herself as a Democrat, identifies as a democratic socialist. So these are not people that have any loyalty to the Democratic Party, and yet the Democrats have been kowtowing to them. They need to say, you know what? You're not Democrats. Get out.
I would agree 100%. Dr. Lopkin, that concludes another edition of Carnivore Bites. Our listeners can contribute to the show, can't they? As well as listen to it on almost every platform, correct?
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. Go to xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking. You can also contact us on the Carnivore Radio Facebook page. Message us. You can also comment on specific episodes on the new Xvadio YouTube and Rumble channel. So we'd love to see you there. And of course, you can listen
And
to every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I thank you, Dr. Lopkin, and I would say I'll see you next week. but I won't because it's a Thanksgiving week.
No, we'll be taking Thanksgiving off, and I think that's as good a time as any to wish our listeners a very happy Thanksgiving. And remember, no matter who you voted for, no matter how you feel about politics and what's going on, you have things to be grateful for. Look at your friends and family. Don't stop talking to people because they don't agree with your politics. Find common ground and be grateful for everything you have because you've got more than you think you do.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. See you in 2.
We'll see you then.